Hi everybody, all you adventurers out there in YouTube land. Coming at you with another episode of Northern Colorado Adventures. This time, post-winter, we're going out into the plains, the Great Plains, just a little bit, to a place called the Pawnee Grasslands. Really impressive reclaimed area by the US government that was basically handed over to sort of rookie farmers back in the turn of the 20th century, and it just did not go well, as some of you may have read about in your history books, or maybe passing through other areas in the region. So I thought we'd go check that out today and see what's going on out there. Howdy adventurers, just touching base after a long winter. We had a lot of snow this winter. This is probably the first moto ride I've had on the Triumph bike since the snow has melted, and I decided to go the opposite direction from the Rockies. And some of you may be going, why would you do that? Why would you think about that? And that is because there's something called the Pawnee Grasslands, Pawnee National Grasslands, and this is a revegetated rehabitat type area where they it's got a very long history in the homesteading of America and people coming out to farm and given 160 acres and good luck. We're just trying to settle the area and frankly move these Native Americans out of here. It was a very sad and tragic story in a lot of ways. And eventually, the irony is none of the farms worked out. The agriculture tanked. The crop prices dropped substantially in the 1920s, and by the 1930s, when the Dust Bowl happened, it was pretty unfarmable and no one was really farming it correctly. So when the government took it back over, they reclaimed it and let it go back to its original state, and it's really something to see. So I'm going to give you a little turn around here. You could see just how rolling grassland hills, and then boom, the Pawnee Buttes. Really fantastic place, and you can camp on over 19,000 acres here. Just kind of think about that. You can see a couple folks here back up behind me on the butte here in their camping vans. Doink. And you could see kind of the old windmill. There's a lot of wind installations out here. So let's go take a peek at the end of the trailhead here and see what we got. All right, so here we're looking at the Pawnee Buttes is what they're called, and there's a significance to them culturally. To the Pawnee, there was several tribes that came here over the eons. You can see the two main buttes there. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So the Apache, the Arapaho, eventually hunter-gatherers, big game hunters would come through here and hunt bison. And the going theory is that these lower levels of land kind of below this like little shelf where you see the color change on the buttes was a massive inland ocean. So this was all underwater and eventually tropical, and then slowly dried out over. Okay, we're back from our ride. So a couple of things just to kind of recap this ride for you so you can do some travel planning and some thoughtful choices around it and what you want to invest in the trip. The first thing is I noticed it's about an hour and 15 minutes from Fort Collins, and it is literally a straight line, 65 miles an hour plus on blacktop that goes out into rolling farmland. A lot of heavy trucks coming out every now and then, but basically a very calm, peaceful ride between those areas where they're doing some industrial work on the farms. A lot of livestock, corn, beans, stuff like that grown out there. So it goes pretty straight, and if you're into that sort of thing on a country highway, good for you. I'm not one of those people. I wish I was. I think some of those segments are fun in short bursts, but 50 miles or so of that is kind of not really my strong suit. So I give it kind of a low grade just getting out there, but about 50 miles in, you kind of turn up and off of the main road, which is a county road maintained, to light dirt for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 miles, 3 to 6 miles of that. And then you close in on the buttes. You can see them in the distance. It's really impressive. And then that turns to kind of like a more of a rocky trail. I feel comfortable with TKC 70 tires here on the Tiger bike. Going up that, no problem. Coming down that, no problem. Nothing that's impassable. nothing deeply rutted at this time that you would need like a Jeep on. But really interesting life out there on the prairie. Mule deer, great birding opportunities, lots of free range camping wherever you can drop. And I would imagine at night, really great stargazing. So the interesting thing is the grasslands are about, well, at least this part of the grasslands are about 60 miles or 100 kilometers from any kind of service station. So you got to have the gas you need going in, but once you get out there, there are no lights, there is nothing, and I imagine it to be just kind of like an experience at night in the Wild West when they would sleep out on the prairie and see the stars. The closest town is called Alt, meaning a unique little town, A-U-L-T, named after a town founder. And they have coffee, maybe like a light lunch or something like that. There's not a lot to choose from in Alt. And I'll supply some additional links below so you can read more information about the grasslands and the area. Okay, so let's just kind of recap what's there and the history of the place. This is really fascinating. So these buttes, the Pawnee Buttes, kind of rise out of the grassland, which goes on for almost 200,000 acres, about 300 feet above the floor of the prairie. And initially in the late 1800s, there were two dinosaur hunters that would come to the area because they were trying to outdo each other. Many dinosaur fossils in the area that go back 80 million years. They believe there was some marine wildlife because there was an inland ocean that covered the Great Plains, and these marine reptiles basically lived there. About 40 million years ago, they had things like mastodons, creatures that look like, they think look like rhinoceros, and then they also had some other remains from the Cretaceous period kind of scattered about, and remnants of an ice age. So that's impressive. But bringing it to the modern day, you know, unfortunately, there is some industrial use around the Pawnee grasslands. There's a lot of natural gas underneath the grasslands, a lot of petroleum sites. You'll see the derricks going up and down in the distance, and some of them aren't that far away from some of the parking areas. So that's kind of a letdown. They believe there's about 15 different sites on the grasslands where they're actively mining and fracking, which is where they pump chemicals deep underground to sort of break up the loose shale and get access to some of those materials. But for the most part, around the buttes and kind of around the main hiking areas and things like that, spectacular open views.